All right, there we go. All right, everybody, we're here. MogTalk 151. Today is Saturday, November 24th, 2018. And we're going to have a pretty interesting show. If you guys have not seen the show before, it's a podcast about the Final Fantasy XIV community, discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. And today is absolutely Blue Mage. I have a huge cast. I don't think I've done this many people live on webcam in quite a while, so we're going to see how everything goes, and hopefully it will go wonderfully, and cameras won't screw up and everything else. But let me go ahead and start introducing everybody here. I'm going to actually start here with someone who hasn't been on the show in like 2 years, my lovely wife, Kerora. Kerr, do you want to tell everybody kind of who you are real quick?
Yes. So I haven't played the game in like a year, and I haven't been on stream in, maybe. It's probably about 2 years, but super casual player, just picked up the game again. And yeah.
And so the main reason I have Kerr on the show is because she hasn't really touched the game, but she went to Fanfest. And so she has all this like insight and views and everything else of someone who is being reinvigorated to play the game again. And we're going to see how that clashes with the rest of the opinions here. Next, Kaiyoko, who hasn't been on the show for, it hasn't been too long, I guess. Hasn't been too long.
Half a year, I think.
Yeah.
About now.
Yeah. All right, Kai, you want to tell everybody who you are?
My name's Kaiyoko, or I normally go by Kai, but I am the fashion report person on Twitter. But also, I'm a active raider in the community.
Yeah. And I've had very many conversations over Twitter about Blue Mage before Fanfest even happened. So yes. I knew he was very passionate and he'd be a good choice to come on the show today.
Yep.
And then next, I've only had him on one other show. I'm giving him a second chance to see if he does any better. This time, GoldenTot. Tate, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Tate. I am very loud, very obnoxious. I dip a little bit into raiding. I also dip a little bit into hardcore. And I don't know, man. That's about it.
Whoa. You make some videos too, right?
Yeah, I do a little bit of YouTube here and there. It's been pretty inactive lately, but we're trying to get it back on the grind.
Okay. Fair enough. And then last but not least, one of the most returning guests I've ever had on this show, Mr. Balana. Balana, tell everybody who you are.
Hey everybody, I am Balana. I've been involved in the leadership of Elysium since its founding. I do the rating stuff when it comes out and go pretty hard on that, and just glad to be on your show again, Frosty. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a minute. And I feel bad I didn't get to hang out with you as much during FanFest.
Oh, you were busy. We were all pretty busy.
It went by so fast, man. It was just over before I even knew it. But yeah, Balana's on because I missed him. So, guys, today the topic is definitely going to be about Blue Mage. FanFest had a lot of different topics within the whole event, and lots of things that the community's talking about. And I was considering doing just a FanFest show where we go back and recap everything, but I figured that seemed not able to justify all the stuff that I want to talk about. So we haven't had a lot of MogTalks recently, but we're probably going to have a whole bunch back-to-back in regards to the topics about FanFest. The first one, of course, being Blue Mage, which a lot of people are very passionate about. We're going to see what everybody thinks about it. And if we all agree and say, yeah, it's great 5 times in a row, maybe we'll just cancel the show and be done. But I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. To start it off, I kind of want to talk to you guys real quick. Just tell me how you feel, like within a sentence. Don't like explain it or anything. Just kind of what your stance is currently towards Blue Mage. And Tate, I'll let you take that.
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Kai?
I feel they chose a kind of middle ground and may or may not work. I'm skeptical.
Okay. It's kind of the same there. All right. Kerr?
I think it's kind of exciting because it's a lot more solo focused. And as somebody that kind of left Final Fantasy because of like all the toxicity, stuff like that, I'm pretty excited about it.
Okay. All right. Balana?
Oh boy, triple triad.
Triple triad? That's what you see it as? Triple triad? Okay.
We can get into it.
All right. So we have a handful of opinions, kind of across the board, from triple triad to cautious to very excited. And throughout the show today, we're also going to talk about limited jobs, just in general, the community's thoughts, and kind of just what the future of the job content will be for Final Fantasy XIV. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and we can all just kind of go off of that and kind of just feed into that conversation. So, Kai, you, again, one of the most opinionated people towards Blue Mage in general.
Yeah.
Do you think they made the right choice with what they did?
When I always talked about on Twitter, I always said that they had to kind of pick a direction that they were going to go with it. And because I just ultimately did not feel it ever was going to work, as Blue Mage is designed, or in most of the other Final Fantasies, to work in 14. Like, you have to literally gut this thing if you want it to work within the battle system that we have. And so what they did instead is they're just like, hey, we're just not gonna involve it in that battle system that we use in the game. We're just going to have it on this side content type thing. So
yeah, so I mean that's the thing. It's side content right now. It's not a job, even though it's called a job. It's really just, hey, here's some stuff to do, because it's not really going to affect too much. Although, I mean, I guess it might affect stuff in speed runs for level 50 content. I mean, whatever niche that might exist somewhere in the world, right?
I think it really is going to come down to depend is how quickly do they raise that level cap and get it involved with maybe additional content than what it has, because right now it's very much like sightseeing log or triple triad, like Balana said. Okay.
Balana, I saw your finger go up.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at, is that instead of integrating it into like the main game, they've created this own little separate thing, which is what they've done with Triple Triad, Lords of Verminion, Chocobo Racing, which is a bold move. I agree. If you're going to integrate Blue Mage, is either gut it and then cram it into the game proper, like they did technically with Red Mage. Everybody got all up in arms. Oh, Red Mage can't fill every role. What are you expecting is going to happen? Right. But they've made the interesting decision to introduce a new system to the game, which is up there with Diadem and Eureka, and they really, I feel they're kind of spreading themselves a little thin. Is they like to branch out in all these other directions, but if it doesn't do well, they just cut off support for it. So it'll be time will really tell with this limited job system as to if they really support it in a way to keep it engaging and a part of the game. Right. Because if it was a core class, it's part of the game. Any new content, any new raid that comes out, all they need to do is like kind of try to balance it a little bit, and then it would continue to join in all the other content. Now they're like, hey, we got these limited jobs. Now we got to keep on producing content for it. Now it's like every patch is like, hey, where's the new Blue Mage content? So.
Okay. Okay. Tate, do you have any thoughts on what Balana said there?
So like, while it is just like a new, it is very much side content, right? Like that is, you can't argue against that. But it seems so much more interesting than just going to a sightseeing log. And I don't know, like I said, I'm very cautiously optimistic with it. Like I'm excited to see what they do with it. And I hope it doesn't end up like another Eureka sort of deal where everyone hates it, but they're so stuck with it they just have to finish the entire patch cycle out with it.
I mean, that's what Eureka kind of feels like, right?
I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is
yeah.
I hope it doesn't end up like that.
Okay.
I hope they approach this very carefully, and I don't know. Time will really tell, because it's kind of hard to say if they made the right choice because we just don't know yet. We have absolutely no idea. It is a brand new system to the game, and I'm interested because it sounds fun. I'm a very old school MMO player, so like the idea of grinding mobs to level and stuff sounds really fun for me as side content. But but also they've tried to do that already with Eureka, so I don't. Well, it's a very much time will tell. We'll absolutely see.
Okay, so Kerr, it's obviously something that you think might be the right choice for you. Why does it appeal to you? What about the system right now seems correct? Why are you excited?
So the most fun I've ever had in Final Fantasy was soloing those old fights like Titan Extreme, and seeing how far I could get. So I feel like it's just another way to do that. But I can totally see it being like a side content thing. I didn't really see it that way initially, so that's interesting. That's the majority opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us kind of feel that way because the reason we call it, I think, side content is because, again, like you were saying, it doesn't go into raids. It doesn't go into, you can't say, I'm a Blue Mage. If you see anyone and they're like, hey, what job do you play? Oh, I play Blue Mage. All right, that's good.
That's like a really interesting thing because they're also coming out with the, whatever that Coliseum thing is. I don't remember what it's called, right?
The Mask Carnival?
Yeah, the Mask Carnival. And I feel like if they approach this correctly, it could be the first really supported form of competitive PvE that they put into the game. And that, like, if that is worked out well, that could be really cool if Blue Mage was actually part of that sort of niche.
Okay.
So they kind of already have done this competitive PvE thing already, though, if you consider deep dungeon content, because they literally have the leaderboards, you know. Like, I just, my fear with when they ever try and do that is it's not worked out that well, or they don't implement it like correctly, because like who goes and checks those leaderboards? Like that,
I know a couple of people who do.
I know like two.
The only thing we like normally look at PvE wise that is competitive is the world race, and this thing can't even be involved in that. So,
I mean, it could be. I ain't doing it, but I think, I don't know. Like when we talk about that too, it's Palace of the Dead is really competitive RNG. When it really gets down to it, it's not really like you have skill that's involved with it, but at a certain point, it's the same thing with speedruns. You're just hoping that you luck out enough times that you're ahead of the other people who are doing it. And that's not that fulfilling, I guess. I mean, it is, I guess, for whoever ends up with the best RNG and on top, but
I guess I foresee it with Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High now being more utilized. Like it's going to be a solo job in there because they need to implement it in there somehow. I think I've heard other people talk about it, but the main reason they're probably not able to right now is because of how the abilities work, and like you can set them, so you're not, and you have to go and learn them. So they either have to give you all of them, or you have to know all of them going into it, or something there to let you be able to go and solo in there. Because Red Mage is almost the only job I think right now that can actually get to the top solo wise. So that would be a good place to put Blue Mage if you're going to keep it the solo kind of job.
Put it in Palace of the Dead.
Allow it to, at least.
That would be actually pretty interesting to think about that, and just have kind of their own little version of it to where they go in by themselves and they learn the abilities of the monsters that are in the dungeon instead of actually
like
going
as you go.
Yeah, as you go.
Yeah.
But
be
it would have to be less
easier.
RNG. Like, oh, there's a 0.5% chance you'll learn it. It needs to be a little bit more dependable. But yeah, no, that would be kind of interesting. That might be something similar. No, I don't know what the Coliseum really. I don't know.
Yeah,
They've already said that you have to know the abilities going into it, and then you kind of put your abilities on like ahead of time, and that's how you determine what order you need to use things, or at least that's how they've stated it. I don't know if maybe it's actually handled a little differently than what they're saying, but that's what I'm assuming. So having a content where you actually like are wiped fresh and then have to learn like as you go which abilities I can use and go through Palace of the Dead like that, or one of those kind of solo contents, then I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, it kind of sounds like what's that mini game in Gold Saucer from Final Fantasy VII that was battles over and over and over again? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that?
It's like Battle Arena.
Battle Arena. Do you think that might be kind of the route they're going, but just a solo version of it with Blue Mage?
That's exactly what it sounded like. They're like, oh, you have to fight against things with certain elemental weaknesses, so you need to have the right puzzle pieces to put in to kill the thing to get to the end.
Yeah.
Or they could just do it for... Alex had a really good opinion there. I kind of agree with him. They could just do it for groups of 4 that are their regular jobs, and it'd be good content still, right?
Yeah.
Well, you lose that puzzle piece, part of the identity, part of that.
The puzzle piece is the jobs that you bring in. I don't know. Maybe not.
The game isn't really kind of built around that way. You could technically brute force it with like basically any party composition you put in there. They have specific things for Blue Mage where you're supposed to like have this elemental weakness, and elemental weaknesses aren't really a thing unless you go into Eureka. So I think they could do interesting kind of like battle square content with light parties, but I don't think if you just threw them right into what the Masquerade setup is now, I don't think that it would quite work out like that.
Well, do you guys think the Coliseum's going to be difficult content? I mean, judging what we assume Square Enix is going to give us, is it going to be something that we're like, hey, we go in and somebody might clear it the first time without any issues, or it's going to take a few tries and done, or it may not be cleared for 2 years, like the solo version of the first Deep Dungeon?
I think it's just going to be, you go in, be like, oh, I need this element, go get it, and then come back and beat it. I think that's going to be what it is.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not going to be randomized at all. Maybe it's just the same thing.
I mean, like, I would love it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that'd be great.
Well, here's how it could be interesting. Is okay, so they said one of their biggest concerns about bringing it to raid is like, hey, Mr. Blue Mage, you want to come raid with us? Oh, you don't have bad breath? You know, get out of here, and they kick you out of the team. That was like one of the things they had a little song and dance, like little thing between Yoshida and Mr. Atma, where they're like, oh, hey, you joining the party and this and that. So that's one of their biggest fears about it. What they could do is use the Masquerade as a sort of check. So you introduce limit break quests to go up from level 50 to level 60 or whatever. So you have to have certain abilities, and then you could ostensibly become a viable class if you were able to clear all those checks.
I actually thought when they originally started talking about it, they were going to make it so that you would only gain EXP from learning the abilities. So like that would gate people from even getting to level cap, like, and making sure that people are actually going and actively getting their abilities. Like
that's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine.
So I was hoping basically like the gate was that, or I guess that the Mass Carnival would be a good gate as well. It's just they need something like that would be a massive EXP boost or something. So I guess someone could technically brute force their way through it, but
right. Yeah, I got you. Don't worry. I just love watching Kai's face. I'm going to force him to start talking more just so I can see him like while he's talking.
Because I lose my train of thought because I'm hearing that in the background. So
I got
so I was trying to hope someone else would pick up.
It's good.
I guess the big elephant in the room is like balance issues, right? Because with every job they've introduced, there's always some issue. I'm wondering if this is their way of like seeing how it does with the player base.
I mean, that's what they said. This is, them kind of getting I think it's hard for me to like kind of agree with it because like I feel like that's just them trying to give themselves a free pass on doing it. But then again, I do want to talk about that as a topic, right? And so let's talk about the way they could have implemented Blue Mage. They could have said, "Hey, we're going to fit it into our mold." How easy would that have been? That would have been so easy. They could have done that like 10 times easier than what they're doing right now. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
Boring.
Yeah, it would have been boring, but people would have been like, "I'm playing a Blue Mage. I'm happy. This is what I want. I'm going to get the next expansion. I'm going to go through it. It's going to be a pre-order incentive. Yeah, I'm going to pre-order it so I can play Blue Mage and I can go through it." And they will get those initial sales. They will get Shadowbringers will be a great expansion because of it. Even if they could just hype it up, and this would be great for marketing. This would be amazing. But they decided, no, we don't want to do that. And they're doing something that the community is going to sneer at because they honestly think, I think at least, that they're doing it because they want to make something they want to make. I don't think it's something that they're saying, hey, we're making content because, I don't know, the balance issue just doesn't make sense to me. But they're making it because they really want to make this kind of Blue Mage, if that makes any sense.
True to the job, yeah.
I think I think that the problem is it's just it doesn't fit in since it doesn't fit in the system. Though they could have done some other things, like they could have made it so like and this is a terrible way of putting it, but you could almost like glamour abilities in a way. Mm-hmm. So you could have all these different abilities to do they do exactly the same thing, but if you want to make it Blue Mage, you can go learn those abilities and that be like, then you have some customization still to it. But granted, then it's not going to have all these massive amount of abilities. Like, mm-hmm. That's the only other idea that I had, that it would even make it work in the system while still letting people customize.
Like glamour, like as in like, hey, the abilities look like they are different abilities and they do different
but
things?
They do the exact same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can have you if you're gonna have it in the PvP content that we have to have some type of balance into this thing, or like you have a bunch of useless abilities basically. Like, because what'll end up happening is people will just be like, well, I'm gonna use this optimal build, and then no one's ever gonna use anything else. But
But I mean, they could just make the way to kind of handle that is to make like multiple builds at least close to each other. And they're like, hey, I want to be this type of Blue Mage and I want to be this type of Blue Mage. And it's the same thing with comps, right? You're not going to bring so-and-so job because they're not strong enough, but they're people who want to play that job. If their group doesn't give a shit, they're going to play that job and they're going to clear the content, right? And so if they want to be that type of Blue Mage, they may not get into World First or hardcore teams, but they'll get into their friends group and they can be that type of Blue Mage. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I see you holding back, Tate, dude. Come on.
I just have a lot of thoughts. They're all just racing through. Because like you're right. You're absolutely right. But like there would just be such a large portion of the community that would be so just gosh darn mad that Blue Mage isn't Blue Mage if they do something like that. Because like I just feel like this limited job system they've come out with is the only possible way that they thought of. The only possible way they thought of. There are obviously other ways that they could have done it, but the balancing and the way that this current game works just would not have it. I just feel like the limited job system and how they're implementing it is just probably the potentially best way they could have done it, and while keeping Blue Mage true to Blue Mage.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's really a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of situation for Square Enix. It's they're going to get flack for it for not being a fully integrated job, and they would have gotten flack for if it wasn't actually going out and learning all your abilities. So how do you kind of weigh those two expectations, and that's how you wind up at limited jobs?
Well, I mean, that's someone already said in chat, but like that's literally what they have the problem with Summoner right now. Is Summoner isn't like the Final Fantasy Summoner in many ways. Like, it's not just it's basically a Warlock from WoW, from my understanding. Like, I didn't play Warlock, but like a lot of people always cite like this is Warlock from WoW basically, because it's the pet and then you put dots on and that's it.
That's pretty similar. Right. I mean, the concept, the idea is pretty similar. Yeah. I mean,
I feel like 14 is really kind of took it in its own with recent updates, though, with how you've got the whole Dreadworm thing. But yeah, I got you.
Well, I mean, and also warlocks and like WoW can now transform into demons or something too, and I don't know, fuck WoW. But like when we're talking about, I guess, God, I lost my thought. What they were doing, like how they decided to do this, it's so weird to try to understand because you think, are they doing it for profit? Do you think Square Enix is implementing this the way they are for profit? I mean,
of course.
I mean, that's what they do with everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, but is this the best way to implement it for profit?
No, absolutely
I
not.
don't think so.
So
this way does have like kind of like the widest possible appeal, the widest net. Like anybody can go and hop in, level up their Blue Mage and try that out, or anybody can go and start collecting triple triad cards. It's a very accessible way to get a job out there.
well, anyone can level up a job.
Yeah, well, it's also from a profit standpoint, like while it may not be the biggest margin for profit in like with just Blue Mage, they've now added this whole new system where if limited jobs work out and people like it, they have a plethora of other jobs they can add as limited jobs in the future, and potentially, you know, the profit starts going up and up and up as the game goes on. So
The problem though becomes is what happens when those new players come in and they're expecting to be able to use these jobs within content and they're locked out. Like they're going to be really disappointed. So like what they're going to wonder why they're excluded. Like that's not, you know, that's where the problem is. Like, hey, look at this big sign. We have Blue Mage now, and you can't use it for most of everything. So
they'll just have to do a good job of explaining what a limited job is and why you can't, because like it's gonna be this for instance, Blue Mage is not balanced for party content. It is this crazy over the top job that you just play solo and it's fun, and it's just this option you have to just do these crazy cool things on your own, and it's like it's neat, you know, it's something to mess with on the side, I guess. And hopefully they can I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, they can show that to new players without confusing them.
I think it's impossible. Because when you get into Final Fantasy, you're not thinking, oh, this is a limited job, this is not a limited job. You're thinking, it's a job. I mean, like you see it, you're like, this is something I can play. This is coming from an outside perspective of people who won't get into this game, because are they trying to retain people? All right, so here's the question. Is Final Fantasy 14, their team, trying to retain people, get new players, or just fuck around? I don't know. What's their main goal right now? And I feel like it's a mix of all three of them, to be honest with you. Like, and so it's weird because they're listening to the community, and they're like, they're watching Kai's tweets about how Blue Mage could never work in this game and it has to be special. And they're like, all right, how do I make Kai happy? How am I going to go over there and make this the way Kai wants it to be? But I know people want to play it, and we want to get it in there. We're going to do this. And so they made limited jobs because of Kai. And so I don't know. It's just weird to me because I feel like they're trying to make the hardcore dedicated Final Fantasy 14 players happy. And this has to be a technique that they use to also get more people in the game, but they're just going to come and be disappointed. And that's what I'm afraid of. Right?
First, I hope I hope they if they did listen to my tweets, they didn't, because I said don't put it in the first place, because you're going to end up with people disappointed on both ends.
I said put it in, so exactly. I think they're going both ways. They're how do we make these two guys happy? All right, Kurt. I guess I'm going to start up kind of another topic here. Let's talk about limit jobs as a general concept. How do you feel, that they're making these limited jobs in the game, and they're going to probably put more, if this works out well, they'll put more resources into building jobs that won't actually be something that you would main or play in a raid.
Right.
Are you happy that they're doing that? They're finding a way out of making jobs that you could potentially raid with, or you don't care, it's just something that you would be interested in doing?
I think it's interesting because they're actually willing to experiment with this new idea So I'm kind of happy about that, because what other game company is gonna put that in there? And you get such like polar views about this one thing because you all care about it. But I don't know, I like it. It's something to do on the side, waste some time while you're having to level your other jobs. They have more jobs coming, by the way. It's not just this one.
Right, but this is one people were looking forward to.
True.
Yeah. So this was one that's like everybody was excited for, and then you get this massive outrage. Everybody feels let down at some point because they can't be a blue mage now. Balana?
Are you ready for the huge outrage?
Sure.
The huge outrage is going to be when they announce that the other 2 jobs coming out with Shadowbringers are both going to be limited jobs. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for the darkest timeline?
It would be. It absolutely would be. I'm fairly certain their population would drop off quite a bit at that point.
Oh man, that would be rough.
I mean, they may stop making jobs, right? They're like, hey, let's stop making raid jobs. Just balance what we got. Just like we're doing with races. We'll make this one more race, but we're done.
I mean, they've got 3 tanks, they've got 3 healers, and you can only bring 2, and they're having, enough of a time trying to balance all 3 of them together right now that I really think they're gonna be able to juggle a 4th one in the mix.
Yeah,
Dude,
I actually think it's pretty balanced right now because they have three tanks, 3 healers, 3 strength melee DPS, 3 dexterity classes, and 3 intelligence classes. Perfect. Don't change anything. We're good. Never again.
Oh God, don't say that, man. It's what keeps people excited. I mean, when we look at Final Fantasy 14, we're talking about, we're trying to make because it's such a weird game, right? This isn't just like an MMO. They're not making this world. They're like, hey, I want to go play this new MMO. It has all these new things. This is like, come into this game and experience Final Fantasy. You guys like Final Fantasy, right? Yeah. And not a lot of game companies can do that successfully. WoW kind of did it, but they made, they set the golden standard back in the day when they first came out of what MMOs, they wanted MMOs to be, and it worked out pretty well. But not really. People falling off the WoW bus, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some people out there still playing it because they like the franchise, but I mean,
or they're so deep they can't get out.
I was 10 years deep when I got out, man. I was 10 years deep. Yeah, I went to Final Fantasy, and I'm okay now. I'm okay.
There's like tons of Reddit threads lately about people like popping up of like, oh, like I'm a refugee from WoW, or
it always happens.
Yeah.
Like it's like I don't know. I don't know if there's like a period within their expansion cycle, like when an expansion comes out, 6 months later everybody's like, oh wow, this really sucks, I'm tired of it. Then they're like, I'm gonna go play another MMO, and they're like, well, Final Fantasy's out there. I keep hearing about it.
From what I understand with the last couple expansions, the timeline that people want to quit has been from the launch of the expansion to the end of the expansion.
So basically the entire time that the game is out. Yeah.
That's the joke.
Yeah, I got it. No one laughed. I got it though. I got it, Tay. Don't worry. I got you, dude. So I mean, this is Final Fantasy is kind of taking up those reins, and they have to produce, I think, quality content if they want to just catch all this stuff that WoW's letting kind of fall through, because they'll eventually turn not to mention, well, I guess they have Classic coming up around the same time the expansion's coming out, so that's going to be great. WoW Classic versus Shadowbringers. But they have a lot of stuff they're letting kind of drop through the cracks, and they're probably going to try to catch it with Classic. But Final Fantasy is going to be out there for their expansion to catch other stuff, right? And they have to produce stuff that people are excited about. And right now, if people are excited for Blue Mage, it's not going to work out. But I guess we'll see. Do you guys think that they're eventually... Let's just theorize it, right? Let's just say Blue Mage is a job that they're saying we're going to start... It's a starting position. This is where we start our jobs at. We're going to go in here, we're going to mess around with them a whole bunch, and then once we're done mixing them up and finding out what's right and balanced and everything, and you guys help us find it, we're going to make them real jobs. Is that something you guys would be happy with?
I actually think that maybe what they end up doing with 6.0 with specifically Blue Mage is they'll just have these like 2 versions of it. Like you can switch between job stones or something, like, and it's like that way they have something to pull from that they already have. And this is kind of like a beta test, but and also to give people both things that they want. So it could always happen. Like nothing's saying a limited job won't ever become like a full-fledged job at some point, or be two separate things, kind of just a way to switch between them.
Right.
I think it'll be completely based on community feedback. If the community is loud enough for long enough about how much they want it to be a real job, Square will have no choice but to, eventually do that. They could balance it and work it out, because it's like the fabled third ultimate, for instance. The community got loud after the second one, and now next expansion we're pretty much guaranteed 3 ultimates, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing, as long as the community is in a constructive manner, mind you. I know the Final Fantasy XIV community isn't super great at that, but maybe next expansion we'll work on that a little bit. Our people's skills and get them up there, but with the right kind of feedback for long enough, just keep hammering at it, they'll eventually just be like, okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though, with Blue Mage, like the hope, the dream is that eventually this is like the beta run, and then they'll bring it into the fold as a full-on job at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, all these abilities we're getting, there's like no real synergy between them. You're just gonna get a fat stack of abilities. So what, you're just gonna go into raid and just be like, it doesn't seem like there's any sort of like rotation or build or anything. It's just you pick up
you just press ability and
you get the Cactar ability, you do the bad breath. There's this. I want to see how the job is going to be working, how it is right now, and then maybe they'll be able to pull it into like the actual prime time. And one way they could do that is do it kind of like how the most recent Eureka did. The progression through the Relic there is you have to unlock all the actions to finish up the Relic in there. So if you wanted to, bring your Blue Mage into prime time, you have to go unlock all the actions, and then that's how they can get around that whole, oh hey, you don't have bad breath, get out of my raid.
Right.
You wouldn't even be able to be there in the first place.
So I mean, that's true, and that does bring up a concept I didn't even think about. Is Blue Mage, I mean, and you guys maybe have more experience with Blue Mage in other games. Is it really you just press it, and, like these moves are not really linked together? They're just their own things?
So I primarily know it from 11 because that was, but so basically you could chain it together with different abilities to make it do different like skill chains, but that was just something that was like involved with most weapon skills or anything in the game. So it wasn't like they had this system where you could like equip certain abilities and they'd give you certain traits, like a boost, like almost like they're like armor, or like just like a trait, like you get haste, or you can get like 10 more accuracy, or you could get like just various things from the game like that are kind of passive, and like it, besides something that was already built in the game with the weapon skills working together.
Right.
But that's it.
Balana?
Interesting. I like the thought of that. Sorry.
No, go ahead, take it.
No, that's it. I was just, that sounds, if they were to bring that into 14 in some way where certain, like, use this, and this, bam, you get a buff. That would be really interesting. I like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could make it to where, like, they give different things, like, different types, right? Each action has a type. And it says, the next action of this type gets this bonus to it. Or, they could just mix and make it all work together.
It would make it more rotational for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that it did was it turned a situation, though, where you had a lot of useless abilities that were kind of like equipped to you, like just because you wanted that passive bonus, like those abilities were giving you. So you'd have like 6 to 10, I think, abilities that were like you never touch, and then you have these like kind of key like 5 abilities. I don't remember the exact, because like each cell and ability like had like a point of value assigned to it, so you could only use like up to a certain amount of value, like of all your points kind of built up. So like once you hit that cap, you can't put on any more abilities. So you try and figure out how to get the most amount of traits, but then keep the key abilities that you need to do DPS.
Okay.
That's how it worked.
All right. So Does that sound, by the way, Kerr, I can just ask you, does that kind of system sound remotely interesting to you?
Yeah, actually, that sounds pretty interesting. Versus like having like a off GCD.
Yeah,
we
just press.
have that block. Yeah, actually, that would be pretty cool.
Okay. So the other parts, let's talk about a couple of bits of the comments towards limited jobs and everything else. One of the big things is they're saying it's because Square Enix is lazy. Is that no?
That's just like initial backlash. What everybody says when they don't like something Square does.
Yeah. Because it doesn't that doesn't add up. Again, because I think they're doing more work to make this happen.
They're adding a whole new system to unlock this path for all these new classes we might want in the future. Fucking lazy company, get out of here.
Lazy, stupid.
It's the worst argument.
You know, I will say something that's a little bit off topic here. I mean, they made Eureka, right? And it looks like they put a lot of work into it. The environment looks pretty cool, right?
Oh, yeah.
I personally haven't done like any of it, to be honest with you. I've gotten like 5 levels in, and I didn't have that much fun. But you can tell they did put some effort into making a cool little area. So
made 2 snow zones in a row. It was great.
Yeah. 2 what? No zones?
Snow zones.
Well, okay. True. But go ahead.
I don't know. I was gonna say I think Pyros is the best iteration that they've made so far. It's really, I think the Logos abilities are actually pretty fun to use to like have, because like you can do some really broken ass shit. Like when you can go and use Reflect and just like absolutely murder like a bunch of mobs, or you can just cast death on whatever you want. Like granted the NMs don't die to it, but like having access to, or like there's like an ability where you kill yourself and you just murder everything around you, like or you can block it by using a tank immunity ability. But I think those type of abilities are really cool within that content. I wouldn't want to see that in other pieces of content, but what they've done with those, plus they did a lot of tweaking to like how the map is laid out, so it like flows a lot better, because Pagos was a nightmare until you reach that first Aetheryte, because you were completely like blocked off. So like I think with Pyros they did a lot better job, and I'm hoping the next one's continues kind of form.
Okay.
And Pyros does really seem to be, somebody brought it up in chat before, it's kind of like a trial run for Blue Mage with all the phone alarms going off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a trial run of having these kind of extra actions that you can select and choose to kit yourself out with. Granted, there's only 2 at a time in Eureka Pyros, but if you want to see like what kind of potential shenanigans they could throw in on a limited job like Blue Mage, look at what they threw into Pyros.
Yeah.
I mean, that is interesting. It's still weird to me. And I mean, I'm relating this because, you know, Blue Mage that has a lot of parallels, I guess, to Eureka in weird ways. But when you look at this content too, it's like they're making an arcade game of an MMO in an MMO. And it's
like they're adding some kind of card game.
You know what? Triple Triad, guys, the idea was great. I know I was angry.
You know what I did all morning, by the way?
What?
Is I didn't have anything to do. I turned on Spotify and I farmed Triple Triad. That was my morning today.
Hey, I've got like 100 and something cards. It's a fun
I love Triple Triad. I've always loved it since like 8.
Wait, is Frosty, are you supposed to cover Triple Triad? It is PvP technically, right?
You know, Triple Triad, when it came out, Kirk can tell you, like, I was like, this is my life. I don't care about raids. I don't care about anything else. I'm going to collect every card. I'm going to walk up to these little assholes, and I'm going to go over there, and I'm just going to beat them. Be like, hey, dude, you want to play some cards? And I'll bring out my Cloud Strife card, and they're like, whoa! And it was going to be great. But then there's enough stuff that went wrong with the tournament part of it that kind of made me jaded and made me kind of walk away. and I just never went back, and now I'm kind of behind on cards. Maybe I should go get cards again.
That is exactly what happened to me. I participated in the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and I was whooping everybody because it was like plus rules, and that is my jam. And then people started trade winning and farming their leaderboards, and I was just like, I'm out.
And they did eventually fix that, where now you have to have your tournament games in an instanced area where anybody else can jump into. But that just kind of goes to show that they'll add these systems and then kind of just let them fester for a bit. And
Yeah.
maybe they'll come around and give them a little tune-up every now and then. But I guess that really comes down to like how much the community is really engaging with that system.
Mm-hmm. I mean, should they just drop content when people don't like it? I mean, just like ignore it, kind of like they did with Lords of Verminion and everything else. I mean, that's a good idea, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
why keep funding it?
Yeah, I mean, Lords of Verminion, I agree, but also things like Chocobo Racing, they've done like 1 or 2 overhauls on, but we still have the same 3 race tracks we started with. It's been since, you know, the end of Realm Reborn, still the same 3 Chocobo Racing tracks.
They could do a lot with that. I'm kind of upset they did drop that, yeah.
See, I don't mind so much if they drop like the gold saucer type stuff, because I feel like it's like, hey, we just threw in this like mini game, so like someone who's familiar with Final Fantasy can come in and try it out for a little bit, and here's the 14 version of it. Just like any other like Final Fantasy, it's like here's this one-off little system they kind of had there. It's just their way of doing it, and it's not putting too much of an emphasis on it. I guess when the problem comes up is this is a little bit different a system. It's attached to a job which you expect to get rid of things on.
Yeah. I will say, to kind of end my little tangent of the gold saucer stuff, is that I wish that they would have like once a month, like super cool special things going on. Hey, we're going to have this super Chocobo race that, you know, if you participate in it, you're going to get all these cool things. And it's over after that once a month thing. Same thing with Triple Triad, Lords of Verminion, just little boosts here and there. Not people have to be like really great, just like a little in-game event once a month that everybody can get together and try to do. And
that'd be cool.
Yeah, if they had like a tournament every other week or something. I mean,
not a tournament, right? No, like something they advertise on their website. They're like, hey guys, it's Chocobo racing time. If you win this time you're going to get this haircut that's off the Mog Station or something, right? Or you'll get this.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to me.
It'd be cool.
Yeah. Something that's a little bit more exclusive than what they have now, and it's easy to get. Because like right now it's pretty much just like MGP and like special, is it like you get special decks from Triple Triad? I don't know what you get from the tournament, I guess.
You get like these cards where you have a high chance of getting rare cards from them, like little packs that you can get, I think.
Yeah, there's specific cards you can only get from the tournament, and I have a friend who transferred from Gilgamesh to Zalera just to go get all the cards because nobody else was participating in the tournaments there.
Gotcha.
He would show up and beat NPCs and get first place, and then he got all the cards and transferred back. But yeah, I mean, Gold Saucer is a little bit kind of a misnomer to bring up when talking about a limited job sort of situation. It's just the most easy one to point a finger at and be like, hey, they tried all these systems and they never really backed it up.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, they're going to have to put resources into it. They got to put a lot of work. And it's not just like, hey, this is our guy that does environment design. He's just making this new area. It's battle design. It's, they have to make bosses. They have to make like fights, right? They have to do a lot of stuff that they have to put together. They have to put some art resources into it. So they're putting a lot of work, a lot of people on this one little area. And I'm hoping it's worth it, right? It's entertaining side content.
Are they really have that many resources into it though? Like as far as like, because all these abilities are technically already in the game, right? Like, so they're just drawing, so they're not having to remake abilities. I think the arena is actually the Ul'dah one. They can just reuse mobs for that and just give them different characteristics, like so a specific ability. Like, so that seems fairly easy to do. Like it's just like it's affected differently. And it's a mob we already have. So I actually don't think they're spending that much resources on this thing beyond just making the system itself. Like once the system's done, like a lot of the art resources, they're already created. So they're not besides the jobs outfits, you know?
The job itself is probably going to have some sort of art they got to put into. You're right. The actions, the animations will be kind of some of the character animations maybe might have to be different. I would think.
I guess in 11 they reuse the exact same character animation every time you used any ability. So I'm just figuring that like the characters
I think
literally
they
just
talked
gotta
about
do
that.
the exact same thing.
I think they specifically talked about how they did a bunch of different character animations for like
Oh, they did.
most of the abilities have
Okay.
character animations, I think.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So next thing, and we can go over this one quickly, is the other comments just that Square Enix is completely out of touch with what the community wants. No.
It's like, so Square knows what the community wants. I just feel like they don't exactly know how to implement what the community wants. It's a very, there's a cutoff somewhere where they're not 100% getting what we want. They just have the general idea of it, and they're just like, oh, we'll put this in, and then it's like half what we want, half not.
Right. I mean, it kind of, again, meeting in the middle for all these different people, between me and Kai, trying to meet in the middle, right? Trying to make this content that just like fits both of us here, but like it's, I don't know if like the stuff we don't like outweighs the stuff that we do like. Maybe it does, but this is again one of the big complaints about Final Fantasy is that, you know, they're making this content, and my thing would be like, just release another job, but people complain that they're just doing the same thing over and over again, the same patch cycle, same job setup, same raid stuff. And we heard at the media interview there that there was they stick to what people really like, but they also do venture out because of Eureka and everything else, and this is their way of venturing out now. And
well, it's nice that they take risks at all, you know, like they could just very much play it safe and just release the 2 jobs. You know, we're probably getting a tank and a healer this patch, right?
Yeah.
So,
or the expansion, yeah.
So like they could just play it safe and do that, and we would just get the same boring cycle over and over. But every other patch or every other expansion or whatever, they seem to try something at least. And it might not always stick, but I can appreciate that they're at least trying something.
Kerr, I do got to ask you, because that was one of your thoughts too, right? Is that, hey, a lot of this stuff is repetitive. We see the same stuff kind of in these different patch cycles. Is this different? Is this kind of what you're thinking of when you're like, hey, make different content?
Yes and no. I think it's, again, just something to do while you're doing your main stuff, but honestly, it's still the same formula where it's like same amount of dungeons every patch cycle, same amount of raid content every patch cycle, and it's just like, and the dungeons are always pretty much the same thing, just kind of a little bit different in a different map.
You know, I don't think the formula is really people like to bash, oh, everything's becoming stale, everything's becoming formulaic, but once they start introducing a new formula and then they break it, everybody goes crazy. Look at
That's true.
They're like, oh, hey, ultimate raid, no ultimate raid. Wait, where's the pattern? We got to get back in the pattern. What I think people are really getting kind of burnt out on and kind of tired of is that it's the same stuff over and over. You know you're going to get 24 man. You know it's going to be 4 bosses. You know you're going to fight it in a circle arena.
Yeah.
It's never going to be suddenly, oh, we're in T3 again and we're doing platform jumping for no reason. There's no.
You could have picked something a little more interesting, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no surprises. They found this formula that worked, and they like give me a random raid where, oh, it's 6 fights this tier, or oh, it's it's 3, but they're all souped up. I mean, people probably feel angry if it was under 4.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that it's so close to the mold over and over, I think that's where people say that the cycle's getting dry. And
I feel like with the circle arena kind of thing alone, they were very adventurous right at the end of 1.0, and I know this is 1.0 when they had nothing.
They blew up the world, yeah.
Right, but when they had a fight in 1.0. I don't know if any of you guys would play it, but it was a multi-tiered level fight where you'd have, like, the DPS would have to run up a staircase, go fight a boss up top, then you have to come back down, do other things down here, and like people are all over the map doing different things like throughout the fight. Like if you look up Neil Van Darnus hard mode, you'll know what I'm talking about. But like you had, I don't know what happened. Like I want to say like back in 2.0, like around when Twin Tanya happened, because if you look at Binding Coil, that was really cool, like laid out, like everything they had laid out there. That was a great like kind of plan to go through. Like, and then they just kind of getting safer and safer and safer. Like even though we joke on like T3, like sometimes like it broke up the monotony of the game. Like, or like for me at least, like it was like, oh yeah, we got done with 2, and then like we'd have like a race to the bottom, like no gear or do stupid shit. Like it at least broke up like this static night of where we do stuff. And then the other thing that happened at the end in T5 is they had the people that were glitching like in the like the arena. And I want to say that maybe was what caused them to create this like flat arena with circle arena all the time, because they're worried about people fucking with their like elevation. Right. So I ever since that tier, they just, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I would love for another like just like a T1 arena with Asclepius or whatever the snake's name is.
Or even encounter like T2 where it's like a big maze you run through.
Yeah.
And you had choice of what you were doing in T2. Like you could determine what type of like slashing resistance or whatever based upon your party setup like you'd want to go through. Like, and you can manipulate the boss in a way and you'd have different abilities. Like granted, the strategy is somewhat differently, and I know people exploited it, but if you were actually doing it correctly, like it did something interesting there, and they were trying things.
So to just kind of counter that a little bit, just a little bit. So when we're talking about them trying different things in raids, and we go back to, let's go back to Alexander, second fight, A2, you get into a Gobwalker. They were criticized for it. People fought back, right? Go ahead.
Okay, I want to say I absolutely like that fight, actually. I'm probably one person who's in the minority, and I was the Gobwalker driver.
I was too.
We cleared it first second day when there wasn't many strats out or anything like that. I had planned out previously, because of the normal mode, how I was going to do everything and figure everything out, and then that applied into doing that, and I felt like I had a major impact on the raid, whether people want to believe it or not. I personally felt like planning and everything that went into that, like it was fun and I enjoyed it. And even though if I wasn't doing something it was like it broke up something what I was normally doing of DPSing. And I understand most people don't like that, but I personally did.
Well, I hated it at the time. I look back to like stuff like A2 pretty fondly nowadays. Just because it was something different, you know. It wasn't just like go in, fight boss, get done. It was that to an extent, but it was just so vastly different.
It was a rectangle instead of a square.
Oh,
It's true.
Yeah.
But immediately after that, they had like the absolute perfect fight. So it was like, to me, it was a perfect fight. So
that's a hot take.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, it was just the community wasn't ready for it.
Right.
And that's the only sad thing. It's the community, the rating, because we were just now getting into this evolved rating scene where we were trying to be more efficient and, be better players overall. And we got our ass kicked by A3. I got my ass kicked by A3. I mean, we cleared it in the end.
My group didn't even try it, man. I wanted to, but my group we got in first night and then they were like, we don't want to raid anymore. And I was like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We were burnt out. Honestly, we were burnt out and we didn't put any effort into A4. But I mean, that fight, if they released it, it wouldn't be the same. I think people would. No. The community is much different than it was before.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're kind of going from Blue Mage into job fights. But I'm just wanted to point out, they do take some risk, but man, do they get bit hard. Like when they do anything and it's just like slightly different. Hey, you know what? Saying left and right is boring. Let's say Lambard or whatever they were saying, right? What the fuck? Square Enix is so stupid. I can't believe this.
What's a Lambard, Frosty?
I don't know, man. I don't know how to say stuff.
What is that?
I can't remember what it was. What's that
it's
thing?
Larboard.
Armboard
and Starboard.
Okay, whatever.
Haven't you ever sailed a ship before, you idiot?
Yeah. No, it's just like people hate this stuff, right? The reaction is so scary to them. And I think at that point, like we have to, they're afraid of losing people. I mean, to some degree, I think they are. And I want them to take more risk. But man,
Can you imagine a Larbird laser sword?
where he just like flips around. Yeah, I can't see any. Oh, yeah.
Well, they I don't know if you want to say the Ultimate series is a risk, but because it's such for a dedicated small amount of people, but they did do a good job. I know this has been on so many times because of streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually disagree that it's for a small amount of people anymore. I think that Ultima brought a lot of people into the Ultimate scene, whether it was via playing it and clearing it or just trying it, because I guarantee the hours that people put into Ultima were like the total hours of the entire player base people put into Ultima, I guarantee were greater than like Signascape. Because people went at it a lot longer. People got really I know a lot of people who normally wouldn't do stuff like UCOP got into Ultima like really hardcore.
But how many subs did they get from one content versus the other content of people logging into the game?
I don't think Ultimate's for new subs though. I think that's more retaining.
Oh yeah.
That's
like I wouldn't consider that content that way.
Yeah. And it's just such a good spectator thing too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the best spectator stuff they've created for the game so far. And it'd be interesting to see more stuff like that. I mean, I don't know what they could really do to kind of bring people in and start seeing this next level of spectator. Like, wow, I want to see people who are really good at the game, unless if they make drastic changes, to PvP overall. But I avoid that topic. I avoid the topic. I mean, it could make some big changes.
We didn't talk about Blue Mage in PvP though. Are you disappointed it's not in
Highly.
PvP?
So here's the thing. That was going to be one of my questions when we were talking to him at the event there. But I kind of knew. I knew as soon as they said it, the way they said it, that there's no way they're putting it in PvP.
I actually think it's easier to put in PvP because it's, I don't know. I think it's easier to put in PvP, but it's going to lose the identity like that, just even worse than Raid.
It's the same way if they were going to integrate it as like a normal job. They just integrate it in PvP.
They have to have static moves and everything. And if they're not going to do that for Raid, I don't think they're going to do it for PvP.
Just make it so that when you fight other players, you gain their abilities. Duh.
Ooh.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that would be good.
What
do you do with Blue Mages versus Blue Mages?
To start out with, though.
A ramp-up job over 6 minutes. That was...
Yeah.
Because that's, to be honest with you, okay, so I can go back to some of my expectations. I was like, all this stuff's hitting out. I know Blue Mage is coming. I'm going to wait till this next season. I'm playing Blue Mage. I'm investing every ounce of effort into Blue Mage for PvP. I'm going to be top Blue Mage. This is going to be fun. I'm going to experiment with it. When they said it, it killed me a little bit because of that, because I lost that as content that I was going to do, right? I lost a lot of content because it was turned into a limited job, or expected content. I guess that's the best way to put it, expected content. But in turn, I am receiving this kind of what seemed, and this is why most people are upset, I'm receiving side content for Blue Mage. And so a lot of people are seeing that. They're like, I'm all excited. I have these expectations. Someone leaked a whole bunch of stuff. We know Blue Mage is coming out. We're all happy. This is what we're hoping for. We're expecting this. No, it's not real. It's just there.
I actually think the leaks might have gotten people a little bit more like excited for it, and then all of a sudden they got let down though.
Yeah.
Basically like people. That's the disappointing thing about this is like. If Square Enix alone had announced it, maybe people wouldn't have been so upset. It's questionable, though.
Yeah, the way they could have presented... There's a lot of different ways I personally think it could have been presented. Like, they probably shouldn't have called it a limited job, because that feels shitty. I don't know if you guys feel like that, but limited feels shitty as a word when you put that on something that you enjoy, right?
Exclusive job.
Yeah. Like, they could have called it, I don't know, solo job, or something... I don't know, fantastic job. They could put any word, anything. Limited is just so like disappointing to hear.
It's an odd word for it.
It's true. It's what it is. but it's not a positive word, right? How do you sell that?
I was like, when I first saw that it was called a limited job, I was like, is it only going to be available for a certain amount of time? Like, what does that mean?
Right.
Well,
But no, it's limited in what it can do. They could have worded it differently, yeah.
They decided to go away from their first choice of crippled job.
Yeah.
I guess I thought it was going to be a case of where it was almost like you only can have one limited job, and like you have to pick between limited jobs, almost like that.
You can see
like,
all these positive things, right? That's like a positive way of looking at it. As soon as you see it, you're like, it's not dead. It's not going to be bad. It's going to be this cool new thing they're doing. But now it's. I'm sorry, Kai. I caught on to that too much and.
Just call it a part-time job or something.
I mean, I do think there's other ways they could have presented this, and it could have came off a lot better. And that the Blue Fever leak stuff was, you know, some intern got a page of notes they shouldn't have gotten or something. I don't know how all that stuff went, but either way, like we got information, and it amped us up to be more excited before a bigger letdown later on. And it sucks that they didn't see that presentation-wise, because I mean, it still looks cool, right? Things are great. First thing we see is a trailer, and we're like, it's here, it's right, everything's coming true. And then like it's
Dude, the way they built that hype was a roller coaster of emotions for me.
But it was a downward, you know, it
was like goosh, like immediately.
It's just sad. That is one thing I will have to criticize, is that the way they presented it kind of led up to some of the reactions that we have.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have taken that happened into account to a degree, and I wonder if they did. It's just that because it happened so early.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but then again, like, you know, I don't know how they did the slides or anything. Like, I won't go. I never, because I was going to talk about the misspelling of Aether on one of the slides. I'm like, I don't know when they did it. Like, it was fact checked, like when it was, or not fact checked, but was checked overall. But I don't know. Okay.
I mean, they also misspelled Puerto Rico.
I think only one person cared. That one guy. Yeah, one Puerto Rico guy that was in the PvP tournament.
They misspelled like 3 or 4 different things, and all of them had to do with a T. So I wonder if like the person who typed it, like their button was stuck or something.
That'd be funny.
Yeah. Oh, poor Francis. Okay. Well, the other thing is, you know, past Blue Mage, you can tell he was kind of pitching the audience the idea of limited job, and he started bringing up other stuff. Beastmaster, Puppetmaster. You can see he was leading the conversation into trying to get people to think about, hey guys, think of things that we can now do because limited jobs exist. Do you guys feel like that's... I guess we're all kind of on the fence right now, but do you guys feel like, I guess, you'd be okay if they did Beastmaster and Puppetmaster as limited jobs? Or the other option would be they never do it at all? If this is the only way they get into the game, is this okay?
We need to see on Blue Mage first, I think, is really what it's going to come down to. That's my view personally, is I don't see how those 2 other jobs are going to really work in the game, but I'm sure they could figure out a way to make it work within the system that exists. But I think them being limited jobs for those other 2 maybe more so than Blue Mage. I think Blue Mage still there's ways they could make it work, but the other 2 I'm questionable on still.
Yeah, Beastmaster. What? I don't remember Beastmaster too well. What is it? Just like you have Beast, you have one Beast that follows you around, or?
I only know both of those from 11. So okay. My view on it is you can go, or what you were able to do in 11 was you could summon pets based upon using an item, or the other thing is you could go around and like actually charm monsters and control them and tell them to attack and use special abilities and stuff like that. And that part doesn't work in 14 because you can't just go out into the random wild and then bring them into an instance. Or I guess you could try and do that, but like I could see them having like a melee class that's summoner basically. That's how I could see it working in like an actual raid environment, but that's it.
Old Beastmaster, they've added 50 new pets you can go around and tame, go around the world and tame them all. You can't go in
Pokemon.
But the,
Yeah, Pokemon is literally what I expect, and that comes.
that's the
the
new
same as
limited
Blue
job.
Mage. It's the same as Blue Mage right there. You go around, you collect the abilities. You go around, you collect the pets.
Yeah.
It's a way for them to. My knee jerk reaction is that it's limited jobs sound a little bit more like a hand job. It's like ultimately nothing's really going to come from it, but you make the people feel a little good about if they finally get the thing they want in the game.
Yeah.
All right, so man, there's so many things I could have followed that up with, and I'm just like stopping myself. Like I'm like, yeah, no. I'm gonna have to snake my way through the most innocent way to get out of that conversation with you, Balana. But I just wanted to like lead it up. But I guess that would be kind of yeah, and how pets work in this game really don't. Okay, it doesn't work well. So I can see Beastmaster being an issue later on as a real job. They would have to change a lot for that to kind of work out. But then again, you would think they would have to change a lot about Summoner with pets and everything for that to work out too, right?
Don't get me started on pet AI in this game. Oh my
god. And Puppet Master, do you just control people instead of pets?
It's a pet class as well. It's like, because it's basically a monk and you can tell this pet to do a different abilities. This is basically how it worked in 11. I don't know if it's in any other game, but in 11, you're a monk and you have a puppet pet, and that's it. That's the only difference. And you can, yeah.
Okay, I don't
really want to explain it any other way.
Okay, fair enough.
It's kind of a weird job.
But them just kind of going out there and leading on it, they're definitely supporting the system. We'll see how it turns out. I guess like if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. We'll complain, and either they'll change it or not. The only thing that has scared me so far is, again, the reasoning they're saying for not the third ultimate was because of the community feedback. And I don't know where that community feedback was. I need to know kind of where they're hearing the stuff where they say, hey, we don't want a third ultimate because it's too hard for us. It's too much work for us.
That's not exactly what was said. The wording, well, the way they described it was they were paying attention to how the community was reacting on official forums and social medias directly after UCOB was cleared, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was super fatigued, right? Everyone was like, this was insane. And one of the things they pointed out was someone specifically saying, if they release content like this every 6 months, I don't know if we can keep up because of like the amount of energy people had to put into it to get it down. Like it was how many days? 12? Is that how many days UCOB took?
I'd have to go back to the sheet to look at it, but that sounds about right. It was almost 2 weeks, I think. I can't remember. God.
But from what I understand, by that time, they had already gotten Ultima was finished. They had developed Ultima by that point, and they were working on the third Ultimate. And they took that feedback directly after UCOB was defeated, and all the feedback and all the everything that people were saying about UCOB when they were trying to prog it, the stats that people were going in and dropping out and stuff, and they were like, oh, people like it, but they don't. So maybe we should redirect our funds from this third one we're working on right now. What they did not anticipate was that Ultima would come out and everyone would fucking love it. So Ultima came out and everyone lost their minds. Everyone got so into it and everyone wanted more. And a direct quote was that the Ultimate fights are similar to a drug, where it's like harmful.
It is. I've made this comparison multiple times. Ultimate Raiders are drug addicts.
Yeah, harmful during the process, but afterwards you just want more.
Yeah.
So by this point, Ultima had been cleared, and they started getting new feedback where people were like, "Oh, this is amazing. I need more of this. Can't wait till the third one." And they were like, "Oh fuck, we canceled the third one." And it was too late in the development process of the expansion because they had already redirected their funds towards Shadowbringers, right? So they were like, that's yeah.
I gotta say that does sound weird to me. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Where they said that there's content we're planning before Shadowbringers, but because we're not doing it anymore, we're just gonna redirect it towards Shadowbringers instead of towards some other content that they could have created.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just like, well, we can't create this team won't create anything different than Ultimate, so we're just going to take them back to Shadowbringers and not put that content in the game that would fill that hole.
It's like, then if that was the case, why didn't the same thing happen for Eureka, right? Because people were very outspoken about how they didn't like Eureka when it came out.
Yeah, it's just so goofy. So I don't know where they're getting some of this information from. And I want to know so I could go and have a conversation with these people and see if they're actually not insane. I don't really know how this stuff, and again, we're venturing off from Blue Mage into this, but it's mainly because I just don't understand how the feedback's getting to them, and I don't want them to take the feedback that makes absolutely no sense.
I would think it's through the forums, something like that.
I don't know if it's...
I don't feel like that's such a good judge of the community. Like, there's just a lot of people that just don't go on the forums, and there's a lot of people that have gotten banned in the past from the forums that are maybe a little bit more outspoken in ways that Square Enix doesn't like, and that's still feedback that they should listen to. Like, and I think that's where it comes from, is if it is specifically from the forums, then they're not getting a good portion of the community. But I don't actually think they're exactly where it's coming from either.
Kai, I don't know if you remember this. You remember when I went insane? I don't know if I went insane. It was around UCOP time. It was being released, and I was having like a heart attack, man. I was like, man, I know this is going to be difficult content, but no matter how difficult it is, ignore anyone who complains about how difficult it is, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, Frosty, this isn't even a problem. I don't know what you're talking about. But then they took some of that comments about how people didn't like it, and then I tried. I don't know.
I think the only complaint I ever felt was valid in difficulty is how long the fight was. Like, I think the fight's way too long, because that's the only Ultimate. I didn't do the Ultima because of I don't want to do a fight that's that long. And I know Ultima's not as long as UCOB, but I personally, at the time when Ultima did come out, I was very reserved about doing it because of how long it took to do UCOB, and it's such an endurance.
Yeah.
Get through the whole thing.
That was true, and they fixed it.
That was really good.
And from what I've heard, it's better. So I do want to kind of go back and tackle it, but that was the only feedback I ever thought was valid about difficulty, because I think it's the right difficulty.
Well, I mean, what they did is they turned UCOB into, or not UCOB, but Uwu, they turned that into a puzzle, a raid puzzle. And I think that's clever. That's a really good way to do content, because you make all the people who are really intense and they love going into this content as soon as possible to have more difficult content, and the people who can't really keep up with that, they still have content, but it's not as difficult because some of that puzzle's already figured out. They just have to execute it.
I feel bad for people who didn't prog it like day one, because like they don't get that like progging for like 12 hours, taking that quick break and then coming back to learn it's all wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna stay with me forever.
Right. It was a very unique kind of love letter to progression raiders from Mr. Atma himself. So
yeah. And I'm glad they brought him out to FanFest. I thought he did pretty well out there talking. Although I don't know if he had enough. We didn't get enough from him. I wanted more, but
you if you haven't checked it out yet, viewers out there and fellows on the panel here, his panel he did on designing Ultimate Weapon is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
And it gives it's also really good if you don't know what the hell an Ultimate Weapon is. It does a good like overview of describing what happened and why they did what they did and why the community reacted in the way that the community did.
Didn't a lot of comments say, I didn't go into, I don't think I saw that panel completely, which I feel pretty bad about, but like it's all free on Twitch, by the way. You can go check it out on their channel, Final Fantasy XIV. But one of the things that he said was that he went in like a story-wise saying, hey, this stuff doesn't make sense to me, so I'm going to make up this whole story and build a fight on it. Right?
Yeah, he had a vision, and this is what it was, and he tried to write it out, and it's like filled the screen with text, and he's like, yeah, that's what's going on.
But
it's a little nonsense for you.
Yeah. But reeling it back into jobs and everything else that we're doing, again, going back to community feedback, I hope that they take the right feedback from Blue Mage. I hope that these jobs do get to see their full glory as an actual raid job, and that we do go into that transition. I think most of the community wants to see that. I don't know if there's anyone who doesn't want to see Blue Mage as an in-game raid job, right?
Mhm.
Right.
If they can fulfill that for us, it just depends on how quickly they do it.
It's gonna happen.
It has to happen. If it
I
doesn't,
really want it to, but I don't think it's going to.
it's not going to happen. You don't think so?
No.
I think it'll happen when the content's irrelevant. Like they'll just continuously like
It'll be 20
it'll be
months
always be
behind.
towards the end of the expansion. It'll be like Relic kind of.
So we're looking at 5.5.
Yeah. That's what I think. Unless, like I said, unless the community's feedback is constructive and loud.
Right. And constructive, again, is kind of what we're looking for. Don't kick your feet and act like children. Guys, we're all adults playing an MMO game, right? Yeah.
Eh.
We're all weebs here, right?
I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But,
Okay,
you know,
Frosty.
yeah. All right, so let's come off Blue Mage just a little bit, because we do know one real job that might be coming out that we haven't. We got a little bit of a cinematic on, which was Gunblade, right?
Yeah.
Why are people excited for Gunblade? Is it because of Squall?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Final Fantasy VIII, yeah.
Yeah. Was that a job anywhere in 11 or anything else?
No, it wasn't.
It'll be completely original to 14, I believe.
I mean, it's kind of like it's like Gaius had it as a job, if you want to consider that. So it's like that has like kind of a idealized vision of it besides Squall. So
I love the gun hammer that one guy had in 2 point something during the story, near the end of it, where he has his own little. Everybody just goes there, kills him in 2 seconds, and they're done with it.
Nero,
Nero.
right? Yeah.
Was it Nero?
Uh-huh.
They had the big gun thing. I thought it was amazing.
Rocket hammer.
I wish they did that for. Was it a rocket hammer or was it like a gun hammer? I thought it was
gun hammer.
It's a gun.
There's
hammer.
gun shields too.
Yeah, and a gun.
I love it. I love all of it.
So now we want guns in the game.
Line of jobs based on all of the gun weapons.
So Gunblade. The only thing that's kind of weird to me about the whole idea of this is that it's not Dark Knight. The weapon type and the feel and the look seems Dark Knight, right?
Mechanically in my head, it also screams Dark Knight in a way, though, because if you're gonna base it on anything Final Fantasy in the past, like in 8, they had like this trigger mechanic whenever you'd use Squall's attacks, basically. So I'm just thinking, like, is Gunblade gonna have, or Gunblader, or whatever you want to call it, gonna have like a dark arts thing before every single
A
GC?
trigger.
Like,
you have to hit the trigger. Yeah.
Exactly. It's use this off GCD that's called trigger, and then use your GCD, and it's like, okay, we're playing Dark Knight.
Yeah. I mean, they could put machinist mechanics in there, right? Where you have bullets and you load and reload, and
But you still use your bullets ahead of using GCDs, technically, right?
yeah.
So it's the same idea.
So I guess we have our leaks and our speculation, but what role do you think this Gunblade wielding job will fill?
Tank. Well, like Thancred is wearing heavy armor under his coat in the trailer.
But Thancred's not. He's a DPS, man.
Thancred was
He's a DPS, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
he was literally a gladiator.
He run around with daggers and stuff, man. What are you talking about?
In 1.0, gladiators use daggers.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
2.0 as well.
Daggers, yeah.
Did they? Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, until
At the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
they literally just changed the names on all the daggers when Ninja came out.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
I don't know. I just don't know. It doesn't. How do you make a tank out of a guy with a gun sword?
Look at the Gaius fight and all the Imperials you fight. Steal mechanics from those.
Okay.
It's gonna be like the Imperial job or something. Is how it's gonna come out. That's how or at least what I imagine.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it's a tank, I'll probably play it. If it's a DPS, I'll probably play it. If it's whatever, I'll probably play it. Because I want to play a new job at this point. I'm tired of Paladin, guys. I need a different job to play.
Are we have to call you Frosty Lionheart now?
Frosty Lionheart. I might be okay with that. You know, it might not be too bad. I mean, I like Final Fantasy VIII. I thought that was a whole cool thing with the gunblades and stuff. Where does it does it shoot at the end of the blade, or does it shoot from the side of the blade?
Instead of like Trigger or Dark Arts, they have an OGCD they have to hit every turn called Draw.
Oh, I don't know. Do you think we're gonna have overheated tanks with overheated swords and stuff?
Well, that would be like Infuriate almost, kind of.
Yeah.
I hope it competes with Warrior. I really do.
That's what I'm expecting it to be, more of a DPS kind of tank, because everyone like wants the DPS on tank anyhow, so they're just giving it to them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna imagine this is a tank. Kerr, you're okay with a gunblade tank guy? You don't care? You're like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy VIII was my favorite Final Fantasy.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about my wife.
Wow.
Okay. So then we go past this. We kind of have the leaks of Dancer, right? Dancer is what we're all kind of expecting for this next job, although there is nothing at the Final Fantasy FanFest that hinted towards Dancer.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Dancer, guys? I mean, is there any reason why it wouldn't be?
I almost hope, because like we're going into the whole, like there's the whole Garlean theme, right? Like we're getting Gunblade, and that's like a big Garlean thing. I almost hope like we get like Chemist or something. That would be pretty cool.
That would be kind of interesting.
The only other thing that's been hinted at in like lore and stuff, like within the game, that they talked about geomancy with like the Astrologian quest. So that could be a healer if they're gonna go with the healer dynamic. But like,
I feel like that's so widely covered in White Mage, though.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because they use stone and yeah. So I mean, I guess we'll see. I want to see Dancer. I think that'd be interesting if they actually implement it as a melee healer of some sort.
That was how it was implemented in 11, but it was turned into more of a solo kind of class.
A limited job?
Huh?
Was it a limited job?
No. You could use it. You could use it anywhere you wanted, but a lot of people wouldn't take it because Final Fantasy 11, no one cared about balance.
Oh, really?
I mean, the developers didn't. They just let it kind of go.
Yeah, that's how old MMOs were. You just didn't really just throw it out there and see
You
what
guys
sticks.
missed that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was
kind of.
in some ways
I
it
miss
was
it
more
in
interesting.
certain contexts.
The thing is that you end up getting into this situation where people are restricted from going into events and stuff because people expect you to be exactly a specific role and feel like I'm not. They expect you to play a very specific job, but then again, we have this situation right now where people are like, "Oh my god, you have to be in the meta Dragoon, Ninja, X, have to have no Black Mage, whatever kind of situation."
People are getting cutthroat like a lot more nowadays than they were back then. Now it's like, oh, you're 1% not as good as this other class. Why aren't you playing that class? Get out of my raid.
Right.
And it sucks because the game, honestly, it feels like it's very well balanced right now too.
In comparison to old MMOs.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, I kind of feel this way too. And I hope this mentality eventually breaks. I don't know what could really do it, but to have it to where, yeah, there's people who want to go in there and be super efficient, speed run, go crazy with it, people who want to do world prog, but that doesn't mean that your raid group should do it or needs to do it to have fun and enjoy the game.
I think where the problem comes in is that it's bleeding outside of that area, and it's like it's becoming too common, like amongst like groups that don't necessarily need to do that. Like if you're on the high end and you're expecting speed runs and all that kind of stuff, fine, go ahead, be meta as you want to be. But it's like when your group's not doing that, or there's not a shared expectation within the group and you're enforcing it, then that's where the problem comes in.
Well, I mean, we're also dealing with like people getting into groups of people they don't know, and so they want the highest chance of winning and everything else. I mean, if we didn't have Party Finder and people just shouted, "Hey, I need a group," people would probably just fucking say, "All right, I'll take whatever this guy is. I don't care. I just want to get into the content at this point, all right? Let's kill Party Finder, guys. Let's just get rid of Party Finder. That could be the solution."
What I think is worse than that, though, is just the parse culture. It's kind of taking over.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people aren't blacklisting samurai and black mages from their party finders just because they're, not in the meta. It's because they don't boost their DPS. It means you're not going to get the better logs. It means you're not going to be on the ranking on the leaderboard of 1% better.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't matter so much back in 2.0 in Coil, because there weren't a wide variety of like party buffs. Everyone just played what they wanted to play because it was, it was what they liked. And then,
I absolutely hate the samurai specific hate, because like I know I've criticized black mages within my like static and stuff like that, so I don't want to get into this. Here I'll say, because I criticize within my static because like we expect certain things in the static, but in party finder culture it's like, what, it doesn't make sense. Like I was doing like Rathalos Extreme one day, and they were like, and it was the very first day it ever came out, so no one had this like where you'd bring like tanks or whatever the current meta for that fight is or whatever, but they were like getting pissy because I was coming on samurai, and you're like, you need to come on dragoon, and it's like,
it's a dragon, you gotta be a dragoon. Come on.
Okay, but I don't understand it from the party finder at all, because like you run into so many situations in party finder where it's like you'll have someone who's terrible at, say, dragoon, for example, and they could be playing like monk or ninja or whatever, and like they do way more DPS contribution from that job in the party fighter scenario. Like just let them come on what they're better at in that situation. But I understand within a static when you want to build a very specific type of group.
I mean, I understand why people build statics and party finders and everything else to exclude this so they can have their easier time. But that was never really what was fun for me in raids. When I did raids, it was being with other people and trying what we had to beat the objective. Again, this is why I saw probably more layers of every single fight than anyone else probably in the game. But I had fun. I don't know. It felt like I had what I had in front of me, and I was trying to overcome something. And raiding and getting the clear, that's the type of raider I was. It was to get the clear. If I go into a party finder, I've already cleared it 500 times, it's still just to get the clear, because that, again, was fun, getting through and achieving that victory at the end. But other people, again, like the Parse dynamic of what the raiding community really is it's not great. I don't know how to fix that. Maybe we should tell Balana stop being a dick, and just like be nicer to people who aren't as good as the world prog he's in, right? Why you gotta be such a dick, Balana?
Because he's better than us.
Hey, don't hate the player. Hey, don't hate the game. we're just out here trying to kill internet dragons real fast.
I don't know. I think there just needs to be more a larger presence with less stigmatizing towards casual or regular normal MMO players. You don't have to be a core player. You can just be a person who plays the game and wants to clear the content.
Well, I mean, that's the good thing about Final Fantasy, though, is that they've lowered the bar for savage rating. I mean,
yeah,
they almost killed the damn game with Gordius. Really, like if you go back and look at the Lucky Boncho numbers and all that stuff, everybody's really excited for Heaven's Word, and then A3 just like murders the population right there.
I guess you're right to a certain point that like the people who survived that were people who were pretty intense raiders in comparison.
Or people who didn't raid at all.
Yeah, people they're out in Balmung ERP, and I don't know.
Wonder what Yoshi P thinks about that.
I wonder what Yoshi P. We should take. We have a 1 hour media conference. Let's take, at least 10%, 20% of that whole media conference talking about something that is literally something people do in whatever chat program they have off to the side and has nothing to do with.
Like, I personally use Discord, like an alternate account. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not even a big deal.
Yeah. It's just alt account, go into these ERP Discord channels. I'm sure there's plenty of them. I know some people in chat could probably help you guys out if you need to find somewhere. God, it's just so. It's all right. People on the internet. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is something I told Kerr yesterday. There's this car swerving all over the road like crazy. And I was like, that guy's just an idiot. It's not because he doesn't know more. And this is how I've started to like understand people. As I get older, I realize I don't not everybody deserves the benefit of the doubt. Some people are just fucking stupid and they're dumb and they are just I don't care anymore about it. All right, there's just really dumb people out there. They're really good at this one thing. No, they're just stupid, man. I can't make up for this person and try to validate who he is because they are, they're really good at the one or two things that they do. When you were just swerving around the damn road when this giant ass truck, no turn signals on the interstate going 80 miles an hour. You're just an idiot.
Can you stop enforcing your road meta, dude?
I'm sorry.
God,
fun driving, all right? God.
Yeah, so toxic.
We're so
sorry.
done. You're like, we understand you're trying to get a good parse on your time home, but Jesus, man.
I'm trying to, a good parse on living on my way home. Yeah, my stats for living.
You're a toxic driver, man.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. So, I haven't collected any questions literally at all. I don't know if I even have the bot up to ask questions. I don't think I do. I could probably look it up. We can take a look at that real quick. We're getting close. I thought we're doing pretty good right now with time. So we pretty much hit all the topics that I wanted to talk about here on the list. I guess I want to think of one more good question to give you guys before I start setting up the viewer questions. So you know what I'm going to do? Balana, you're going to find out a question for me. Go, do it.
I'm going to find a question for you?
Yep. Ask a question. You can do
Throw
it.
me on the spot here. Oh, is this my trial run for
This is your trial.
taking over the show for you?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. If you could have any job added in as a limited job, which one would it be? Frosty, go.
Fuck, I'm doing something. No, it's honestly, if I could have any job, I don't want any job as a limited job. I mean, that's the thing, though, right? I don't want any job as a limited job.
All right, Frosty, back to getting questions. Kerr, which limited job would you like added to the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel like this is a trick question. Because I'm the same way. I don't really want to be limited either, to be honest.
And that's why it is a trick question.
Yeah.
Although me personally, I'd want calculator added as a limited job.
Okay. Good choice.
I mean, that's not a bad one. There's a lot of jobs that we could pull from Final Fantasy Tactics easily.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's tons of them. Mime. Yeah, we could try Mime. Onion Knight. We have Onion Knight in the game.
Somebody said lore master. What like a job you go around collecting tomes of knowledge, right? Like it would be like it's sightseeing log for lore, right? But they're adding that, aren't they? They're already like doing something with that, aren't they? I might be mistaken. I dreamed about that.
There was a long time ago that they were saying Koji was gonna get a library in the game or something. Like it was like Heavingsword. So yeah, just make a job around going and collecting all the books that need to go in the library.
Dude, I'd be down. I'm so down for collectibles.
Screw rebuilding Ishgard. Let's build Koji a library.
For like a legitimate question, for like a legitimate answer though, there's a lot of like weird niche jobs that would use like gear that already exists. Something like Valkyrie or Viking or something like that. Just little random goofy jobs that normally we wouldn't get a chance to play. Maybe
I think
something that
would
take a lot of resources. I'd say.
Yeah.
At least in 11, Beastmaster was pretty much Viking plus the pet thing. So I don't know if that is how it's going to come in eventually. So
yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see them create different Final Fantasy 14 jobs or different Final Fantasy universe jobs, I guess would be the best way to say that.
I'd like to see more original jobs.
Yeah.
Things that I just can't think of. Things that would be interesting for them to implement. I want to see them try to get jobs that could switch between different stances and be more defensive, more aggressive, kind of multi-role jobs, and just experiment with that in limited jobs. If it could become at least some sort of testing ground for different ideas, great. But I want them to be eventually implemented. But if they're not, and they're really shitty jobs, throw it in the trash bin with Lords of Verminion, right? They're just over there in the corner, and they just pile it up like, oh, well, this job didn't really work out. Okay, we're not going to take it seriously.
I think they need to be a little careful about that too, because right now they've added Blue Mage, right? And that's something that they've had. they're going to have to dedicate themselves to that for a long time, because every time content comes out, they're going to have to be like, all right, well, how can we incorporate this into Blue Mage's abilities? We're going to have to do this and this. So when they do future limited jobs, they're going to have to make sure it's something like where if it doesn't work, they can just drop it, you know, where they don't have to fund it anymore. Because Blue Mage is going to have to be funded from now until the end of the game now, because that's what they've decided to do with it.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Lords of Verminion. They have to, every time a new pet comes out, they have to add Verminion stats to it and special abilities to it.
I mean, honestly, you could just easily just like...
Are most of those just copy and paste? Like, because all the abilities are like exactly the same within a formula. So
yeah.
Okay, this is a good question here from King Theoden. Do you guys think Blue Mage is enough to make up for not developing a third ultimate? If not, what could they have done to hype us up for 4.5 and beyond? So Blue Mage is kind of the thing. Like, they're like, hey, there's no ultimate, but hey, this is the other thing you could do in 4.5.
I don't really think that they are. I don't think one can replace the other, sort of deal.
Well, it's something to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's something to do, and I'm happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
If the choice was between getting Blue Mage in 4.5 or getting a third ultimate fight, I would have gotten the third ultimate fight.
I think everybody would have, yeah.
Kerr, would you have gotten the ultimate fight instead of Blue Mage?
I don't know. I didn't fight that.
Yeah, I know.
That's the default no. That's the default. Like, ultimate fights wouldn't really appeal to, you know, the
casual Kerrs.
The casual
no, that's not true.
Trying to rope in. Well, I mean, the people watch it, but they don't have to subscribe to the game to watch some Twitch stream.
Yeah.
It'll get them interested in the game. Maybe they'll go try it sometime, but it's not gonna get people wanting to get butts in seats and actually hands-on with the experience.
Right.
I think the ultimate would have been better for people to, like, if you want to talk about how people are leaving WoW, ultimate would have been better. If you want to talk about bringing in more Final Fantasy fans potentially, then Blue Mage is better. So it depends on what Square Enix's goals are really in the end.
I mean, when we think about jobs that are like appealing to get Final Fantasy nostalgia in players into the game because of Final Fantasy nostalgia, what's left? What's out there that's like, hey, you want to play this game because this is a job that you liked from a different Final Fantasy game?
Blitzball.
That's not a fucking job.
That's my new favorite limited job is gonna be a Waka.
Oh,
Dude, wait! Oh no!
Blitzball plays job.
No.
So in
There's
4.5,
validity to that thought.
So in 4.5, we're gonna get two limited jobs. It's gonna be Blitzballer and Blue Mage.
Oh.
Because that's what the Gold Saucer event is going to be. Because they talked about it at the beginning of the expansion.
I mean, I can see it. Just waka, throw the ball and like knock him out, dude. Like, man, I forgot all about that. That was the core of that dude.
He fought with a volleyball, man. Hardcore. He killed a god with a volleyball.
Oh man, that was so crazy. Well, I mean, it's possible. I mean, Balana, when you were on the show and we were talking about, when I had the question for Yoshida about where's Blitzball at, he's like, I really don't know what to do or how to really make it because it's proven to be a little bit more difficult. Give me some ideas. Make it a job.
There you go.
It's done.
Limited job.
Oh,
that's like actually
you have your limited
idea.
You have your solo instance at the end where you go into a tournament.
Yeah, instead of Coliseum, you're doing Blitzball.
And you're collecting players the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
My God.
You have to go out in the world and talk to NPCs and convince them to join your Blitzball.
It's almost like you go out and you play them in card games and get their cards.
The Gambler could be introduced, man, and just there you go, Gambits everywhere, and it's triple triad. You have to do triple triad matches to learn skills.
Well, then you can have a use for your triple triad cards, like as opposed to turning them in MGP, all your extra ones like deal damage or something when you throw the cards. Like the better the card, the deeper the paper cut.
But you have to hit it on the right side, right, where the 9s are. You can't do it where the 1s are. Like, you gotta like aim that. Yeah, I got it.
You got a 1 in 4 chance of one-shotting a boss with an A.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Well, I think this is an obvious answer, but do you think Blue Mage will get the 2.x Relic quest line?
No.
Nah.
No way.
It's too limited. Basically, now that they've called it limited, you can pretty much just take out anything that's extra work that just seems unnecessary.
I doubt they'll even get any relic up to this point. Like, I don't think they would even get like Eureka relic at all.
Are they even going to use gear? We don't know.
I don't even think they're going to like add like special weapons to like the primals and stuff how they have in the past for this. Like, I feel like the best gear, like besides like maybe throwing on like coil equipment that's for casters, like the weapon, the best thing's going to probably come from like the quest or something.
Okay, so here's a question that I'm going to say, and then I'm going to kind of add my own thoughts onto it to ask you guys as well. How well do you think a sub-job mechanic would work in Final Fantasy XIV? For example, being able to pick between 2 to 3 archetypes for a job that changes how they play it a little bit. And my add-on to it would be, how would you feel if the limited jobs were things that you could pull over to other jobs? Like certain things that you do if those jobs could be, you can take parts of it and bring it onto like a real job.
With the number of jobs in the game, I don't think it'd work that well. It'd make it really difficult for them to balance. Like, I feel like their trade-off of not having an open, like, multiple jobs within, or multiple sub jobs within the job is like how they're making that branching kind of thing. So like how WoW has the 3 trees, or maybe they changed it since now, but that each of our jobs represents a tree kind of right now.
Yeah. I mean, who plays WoW anymore? No one knows what's going on in that game, dude.
Yeah. Well, WoW basically now each class, not job in that game, class has like 2 to 4 specializations, and each one's basically a completely different class. You press a button, you switch your spec, and you get a whole new like slew of abilities, and maybe you have like some utility overlap. But in return, the sub jobs and stuff in 14 tried that. They did that in 1.0 and 2.0, and it didn't really pan out. I thought it was cool. That was actually one of the hooks that got me into this game, and now it is gone.
Yeah, they definitely said that they're steering away from it. I mean, I don't think they really want classes to exist anymore either. They just want jobs, right? They just want one linear job. All right, let's see. What? Okay. I'm going to ask anyways. Ro Magnus here. How do I turn a compliment into a question? Am I proud to have seen you at the FRC FanFest 2018? The answer to that question is yes. Am I happy to have seen your audience grow as big as it has? Yes. Okay, I didn't actually read it where it was actually a compliment towards me. I read the first part about the question, but all right, now I sound like I'm self-indulging over whatever was just here. Thank you very much, Ro Magnus. I appreciate it.
Well played, Frosty. Very smooth.
Thank you. I hope that was super smooth. All right, next question. This is from Jimling. What does all of you from the battle system maintenance of what do all of you expect from the battle system maintenance of 5.0 job wise? Okay, so what do we expect to happen with jobs in 5.0? What are they going to do? What are they going to change? Are they just going to trim out a couple of different things and just say, hey, here you go?
So like they kind of already did that, right? Like with Stormblood, they simplified the jobs a little bit. And what they're implying is that it's going to simplify it even more. And I really hope, like I feel like since Heavensward, the skill ceiling has just been getting lower and lower. And I really hope that's not the case with the next expansion.
And I think Summoner is harder to play now than it was in Heavensward. But it's just me. I mean, it's different for different jobs. Like some have really like decreased in complexity. Some have, changed around. I think with battle system revamp, one of the big things they need to hit, I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but what they need to hit is the leveling experience currently is trash. Because they just went through and they deleted like skills out of so like I think bards go like 12 levels without getting a new ability or some nonsense now. I haven't leveled anything in a while. But they need to make it so these classes are more fun to play from a lower level, that their identity kicks in faster. This is going back to WoW. It's an issue that WoW had, where you had these 3 different specs, and they wouldn't really manifest until a certain time. So what they did is they went through and like, okay, when you choose your spec, you get these abilities that define your core thing. And I think they really need to get the core of the jobs into the hands of the players sooner, So you're not just doing heavy thrust until level 30 something as a
Yeah.
junior.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things is that they have to change that whole leveling experience and going through storyline too. I mean, there's lots of things they got to fix with someone getting new into the game because it's such a hard wall to get over, going through all the way up to at least until like Heaven's Ward, right? Going through the first 2.0 part is just huge.
One thing I was gonna say is like with PvP, you kind of get the taste of the job really early on because it's at level 30 and you get like a bunch of abilities that are very comparable to the ones you'll have at like 70 right now. Like I like you kind of get that taste of the job, like at least Dragoon. Like I've played only Dragoon and some and Samurai in the new PvPs, but like Dragoon, you pretty much kind of have that.
The same
you
feel.
have like the kind of somewhat of an idea of the toolkit that you'll have later at 70. So
yeah,
maybe something like that earlier on. I don't know.
In PvE where they can go out there and it's just kind of simulating that, and you just kind of grow a little bit. But you have to give people something to look forward to, right?
Right. It's the tricky part because there's so many levels to go through.
Yeah. And someone also asked this as a question, but this was also part of what they were saying kind of here in chat, is that with them combining MP and TP together, they're eliminating a lot of things that they need to have in the game, right? Some things will start to become redundant. Go ahead.
I mean, just what jobs use both MP and TP at this point?
Dark Knight.
Paladin. That's like their core mechanic, right?
For healing, and then like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their rotation is use mana up all the way, rebuild it while using TP, then go back, use mana, then TP, then mana. It's just a back and forth. So I don't even know how it would work.
But the TP isn't never, as long as you're, staying healthy and not dropping dead and getting raised, the TP is like non-issue at this point, right?
Right.
Well, it was an issue before they implemented this back and forth between mana and TP. That was one of the biggest things with Paladin, right? They would, if they went really aggressive, they would run out of TP.
What if in their battle maintenance they did, like, even though it's MP is going to be the resource for everyone, like what happens if like most of the jobs that used to use TP just don't even need MP? Like it's just like it's like maybe you'll have abilities that use MP, but like your GCDs don't use TP anymore, so like Invigorate, Goad, and all that kind of stuff just becomes redundant. Like that could be a possibility.
I think with Paladin, what they could very easily do is change some of their gauge stuff to cooldowns. Intervention, Sheltron, they could make stuff like that, just straight up have a cooldown, and then they could make it so that their spells cost gauge. And that would be a fairly simple fix. And then with Bard, of course, you just make foes a cooldown, whatever. And then I'm not entirely sure about Dark Knight. That's a complicated one, I think.
Just for Paladin and Dark Knight, screw the TP. The TP's not an interesting part of it at all.
Just make it to where things don't cost TP anymore. They just
No.
Yeah.
Is there any interesting part of TP management? It's either you have it or you don't. Like,
yeah,
boring.
I mean,
it's like, oh, I died, goad me or invigorate. You're back up. It's fine, whatever.
I mean,
everything.
It's incredibly frustrating if you're AoEing, then all of a sudden you just run out. I mean, granted, that might be things a little broken potentially when you are AoEing now if they leave it the same, but like most of the time.
Like, why though? Why would it be broken? Because casters, for instance, Black Mage can just flare, swap over, do two things, flare. It's
no, that's true.
Summoner can AoE like a madman as well. It's why would physical jobs not be able to do that too?
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, when I'm in dungeon, then I'm spamming my spin move on Paladin, right? I'm running around just spinning. I run out of TP then. If they take away my TP gauge, then I'm just like a mass murderer. I just run around and I just spin around and kill everything constantly. I never do anything else. Just keep spinning.
You're going to kill everything with your like 100 potency?
Hey, look, if there's like a lot of things there, it's pretty strong. All right.
Yeah, it doesn't have the damage drop off, right? So, it doesn't have the...
Right. Okay, so let's see. What's this next question here? All right, so we'll do one more question. We'll bring it to Gunblade. If Gunblade does become competitive with Warrior, do you think that it will be open for the flexibility of a tank choice, or let people flock to both gun and warrior as a standard and get rid of paladin and dark knight. So if we have like, I guess that's a kind of a bigger question. It leads into a bigger question, but what do you guys think? Sorry.
I think it might depend on fights, but like most of the time people are going to probably shift to whatever's going to do the most DPS. So unless there's a reason to have the utility from Paladin or Dark Knight or whatever they have in it that they're providing, I suspect whatever's going to have the most DPS still is going to be what people want to use ideally.
The group DPS, yeah, the overall, yeah.
So if both of them are DPS classes and they can get through the fight and not cause too many issues, and they make you beat and rage easier or whatever reason, that people are going to flock to those together. So
like the dream is like in 5.0, like it's going to suck for people. Like this is a hot take for people who love warrior or whatever, but like the dream is that in 5.0 they rebalance tanks to be tanks. You know what I'm saying? Where you don't have to bring this incredibly high DPS tank.
It doesn't matter if you have to or not, I think, at this point. It's just,
it's just balanced so that you can pick which one you want, and then the DPS do their DPS, and the tanks are there to tank. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, being able to pull out some decent numbers makes the class a lot more interesting. Swapping between tank stance and DPS stance is like, it adds a lot to the job, but like, in a perfect world, you kind of just do your job. That way the meta is not so powerfully shifted towards that specific class.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, the only way they could really achieve that and make players interested in that is if they make the DPS of tanks like 1, 2, 3 DPS, right? Like very low, like almost non-important DPS numbers, almost nothing. And everything's just really high enmity. And then it doesn't matter because it wouldn't change anything in the end. But if there's any increase in taking one tank over another, players are going to sit there and BS you and say, "Fuck you! I don't care. You don't do enough DPS. I want to kill it like 2 seconds faster." And,
no, you're absolutely right.
I guess there was one other personal question I wanted to throw out that I forgot to ask you guys earlier on. Can they release an expansion without a DPS job?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that that's not going to be like a big drop off for people if they can just say, hey, if you start this new expansion, you're not going to have a new DPS to play. It's just going to be tank and healer.
Well, like what about the people who've been playing like tank and healer the whole time? Like they're going to be excited for it, or they're either A, going to be excited for a new tank or healer, or B, they're going to be excited because this time they're going to swap to a DPS because they've been playing tank or healer the whole time. So everything's going to be new to them, so it doesn't even matter, right?
But the DPS won't have anything new, right?
Play a tank or healer then. Swap.
No, DPS hate tanks and healers, man.
You say won't have anything new. They'll have 10 new levels across.
They get Blue Mage.
Okay, Kerr has Blue Mage.
Yeah.
Kerr is going to be the first like pro Blue Mage.
Yeah.
She is going to be like the top of the Blue Mage. When people ask her what Kerr is, she's going to be like, "I'm a Blue Mage."
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much only a DPS player, like when it comes to content, for the most part. So I still level everything else though. Like it gives me personally more stuff to do. Adding just 2 jobs in general, even though Blue Mage, I'm skeptical about it. I'm still going to do it just because it's more content. So I think that goes with anything.
Okay. All right, well, we can start wrapping this up. We did 2 hours. 2 hours on Blue Mage. I feel like we did a pretty good job covering the whole scope of jobs in Blue Mage and everything else that we learned from FanFest with it. So it was a lot of fun for me. But I want everybody to do their own shoutouts. And so since we have 4 people to do shoutouts on, that might take a little bit longer. We'll see. It depends on what Tate has to say. Tate, you want to do your first bits of shoutouts towards everybody and say bye to everyone and tell everybody come watch it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, Frosty. It was good to be on with webcam this time instead of
amazing
whatever weird bar at Cat Boy I sent you last time.
Oh yeah, that was stupid.
No, that's amazing. If you guys want to follow me, I'm at twitch.tv/GoldenTot. I'm on Twitter at GoldenTot. Pretty much everything at GoldenTot. You can just find me wherever, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. Kai?
I want to thank my wife because she did an awesome job with the fashion report thing. Since I'm not a cosplayer, but she did a great job bringing it together. We came together and did that. So I wanted to give a shout out to Nari for that. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to the Square Enix team, community team, because they did an awesome job with FanFest. Like it was probably the most well put together FanFest out of the three. And then last thing is, if you want to find any of my content, it's usually just at KaiyokoStar or NarcoStar.
On Twitter.
On Twitter. Yeah. Nari's, I stream on Nari's account, not on mine. So because we share that. So yeah.
Okay. Balana?
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out and listening or watching, and thank you Frosty for having me on again. If you want to tune into what I'm up to, you can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Balana Rahl. I think it's right there if you're watching the video. And big shout outs to my free company Elysium and all you crazy people in there, and as well as all the crafters of Gilgamesh that are finally going to get their comeuppance once they do the server transfer thingy. World, what is it? The World Vacation System or something?
It's visit.
The people are going to come over and rob our market boards and drive up our nice low potion prices.
Yeah,
it's the end of an era coming up here.
Yeah. All right, Kerr.
Thank you, Frosty, for letting me come on. I don't really have anything where people can find me from because I'm pretty busy with IRL work and stuff. But yeah, it was nice talking to everybody. Thank you, everyone, for coming on.
Yeah. And guys, again, thank you all for coming on the show. This was probably, again, the biggest show I've done in a while. It felt okay, though. It didn't feel too bad. I felt like this still kind of worked out.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So maybe I won't, because I used to be in the past, like, I was like, nah, I'm never going to do too many people, like 5 people on the screen at the same time. That's stupid. But now this is okay. It's fine. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on, and I look forward to the next shows that we'll have with you guys on it. I will say, next week is our episode on PvP, where we will be talking about the people who won we will have Team Synergy 6. They'll come onto the show and talk about kind of their experience with the FRC and everything leading up to going onto the stage and competing. And so if you guys are at all interested from what FanFest offered you guys, and hopefully it offered something nice for PvP and entertainment, check us out next weekend. Again, I don't know how many members are going to be on. I think maybe all 6 will be on, but we'll see. And then we'll see about the episodes after that. I think we have Ethis coming on for the story arc, and then we have one other show which isn't fully planned out for kind of talking about the community in general. Guys, again, thank you, Blizana, for the layout that we use on the show. Thank you very much, Andre Kane, for letting us use that intro and closing music. And thank you very much also for Kerora for keeping me sane and making sure I don't, go too off the ledge there. And everybody, we'll see you next week. Thank you again. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that's perfect, Tate. It's perfect. All right.